All right guys, today we are going to talk about how you can get around Bangkok and what the best ways are to move around the city. Bangkok is one of the largest cities in the world. It is comparable to New York City and London with well over 8 million people, and it's growing quickly each and every year. Bangkok has so much to do and even more to see, but it's not all concentrated in one area, so it's kind of spread out all over the city. One of the challenges of Bangkok is finding the most efficient way to move around the city. Traffic in Bangkok is quite famous, and with reason. It is intense and it is so time consuming. It's the hardest way to get around is if you're going to be using any of the roads in Bangkok. Traffic in Bangkok has gotten increasingly more challenging with nearly 10 million vehicles and motorbikes on the road, and that number is growing by the day. Congestion is inevitable, but if you're traveling around the city on the roads, you are definitely going to be running into that. And then during rainy season, you've got the floods to contend with, so it does become quite challenging. While you can easily catch a bus to ride from place to place, it is definitely one of the cheapest ways to get around the city, but you do have to endure some frequent stops, as well as these buses are open air, so there is little to no airflow since you're not moving very fast because of the traffic. It does make it very challenging if you're not used to traveling that way. However, as I mentioned, it is very inexpensive. You can travel for as little as 10 cents in US dollars. Another way that you can get around the city is by taxi. You can hail a cab, but you do have the risk of being turned down for a ride due to where you may be going. The reason for this is that sometimes taxi drivers don't really like to leave a certain area where they are working, so they will turn down people for a ride because they want to remain in that area. So if you're going someplace that's outside the area of where they want to be, they will tell you no and just keep driving. So your best bet is to download the Grab app, G-R-A-B, Grab app, and you are guaranteed then to be picked up and dropped off wherever you like. You just put that right into the app and they will come and pick you up and drop you off where you specify. Now, this service is similar to Uber, but the difference here is that you're not going to get as many personal vehicles picking you up. It's going to be mainly taxi cabs that agree to the terms for this trip and for the set rate. So you won't be using a meter. If you get a taxi cab through the Grab app, you won't be using a meter. You'll be paying what the app has said in the app. So that's a pretty good deal to be able to get a taxi, like to definitely take you where you want to go. If you're riding a regular taxi, do be sure to have them use the meter. It is illegal to not use the meter. However, it is often done to not use the meter, so definitely determine a set fee before you get into the car. Average ride within the city is usually around 100 baht, depending, of course, how far you're going. So that's about $3 US for a ride, which is really inexpensive when you think about the cost of using Uber in the United States. Another way to go shorter distance for a very small fee is by Motorbike Taxi. Now, these are exactly what it sounds like. The nice thing about these is that they can move around in traffic a little bit better than a car or a bus because they can weave in between cars and zip through the front and just have a little bit more maneuverability within the traffic. Now, it is also a little bit more dangerous as you are generally traveling on the back of a motorbike in some pretty intense traffic. And the driver will likely be wearing a helmet, but you will likely not be wearing a helmet because most people don't walk around with a helmet, just carrying it around with them. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, your safety. Motorbike taxis, as I mentioned, don't go very far. There's a predetermined area that they work in, and so they'll only take people to someplace within that area. During rush hour, as you're coming off the BTS and MRT, you will definitely see lines of people on the street. You see them just standing there. They're waiting around for motorbike taxis, waiting for their turn to take a ride. Now, the very best way to get around, in our opinion, is, of course, to walk whenever it's possible. If you're not walking too awfully far, walking is definitely a great way of getting around the city. But you can also combine walking with riding the MRT and the BTS metro train system. The BTS and MRT systems are really easy to use, especially for tourists. The BTS is a Skytrain that travels over the city, and you'll see them throughout the city as you're driving around and walking around. It gives you a great bird's eye view of the city as you move around. Now, the MRT is mostly underground, so there's not much to see, but it is the line that will take you to some of the most popular attractions around the city. You go to the station, and you can buy a ticket for one ride, round trip, 1 day use, 1 week, or you can buy a reloadable card. If you're going to be there for more than 1 week, we recommend getting a reloadable card. That makes things really easy for you. Now, you have to purchase a separate card for each system. So the BTS has its own card and the MRT has its own card as well. So you have to buy 2 reloadable cards if you're going to be using both systems. There are several places, several stations where the 2 intersect, and you can see that on the map where they're going to be intersecting. So that if you want to get from one BTS to MRT or MRT to BTS, you'll know which station you need to go to be able to catch the other train. So if you want to purchase the reloadable card, you will need to go to the window at one of the stations and make your initial purchase there. Be sure to bring your passport with you the very first time because they will ask you for it. They will not sell you a card without your passport because they do input that information into their system when they sell you their card. After you have made that initial purchase, you can also, while you're at the window, load it with the attendant, or you can take it to one of the machines and reload it there. So you don't have to go back to the counter each time. You can just use the machines to reload your card after that if you would like. You can ride the train system for as little as 25 cents US dollars for one leg, one way. It's fairly inexpensive, as I mentioned above, and really easy to use. All the signs are translated into English, as well as the station stop announcements that they make on the train. They are repeated in English after the initial Thai announcement. Each train does have a map in it so that you can keep track of how far you've gone and how much longer you need to ride before getting off. And one of the great things about the BTS is that BTS and the MRT really, is that many of the stations are big enough to have food and drinks available. Some of the MRT stations also have public bathrooms, which are free to use. You'll also find convenience stores, nail shops, clothing shops, and food for sale at both BTS and MRT stations. Make your purchases before you go to the platform, as you will not find these options on the platforms themselves. The trains are clean and air conditioned, although sometimes I think a little too cold in my opinion, but it is nice that they are at least air conditioned and they are super clean. The organization is magical. There is no pushing and shoving like you encounter in some place like New York City subways. People stand in an orderly line waiting for the train. There's usually a platform guard who keeps order from a distance. If the train does fill up, the people stop piling in and wait for the next one. The trains do run in a very timely manner, making it easy to time your travels around the city. You can also download the apps for BTS and MRT. Now, I can't finish this video without also telling you that you can take a water taxi up and down the Chao Phraya River. There are free ones as well as paid ones, and you can also even do dinner cruises. You can do this if you're planning to travel up and down the river or staying in that area. My favorite is to take the free water taxi from Sapan Tatsim to Icon Siam Mall at night. It's a beautiful ride, and you also get to see all the buildings lit up at night, and it's quite beautiful. Alright, I hope that helps you guys out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give me a like on this video, and we'll see you on the next adventure.